Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Institute for Personal Development, Kriya Yoga Ashram, where total consciousness is the new frontier.
Kriya Yoga is union of the individual with the divine. Join us as we explore the practices to initiate this process.
Good morning. Welcome to the Voice of Yoga. Let's talk consciousness. I am your hostess, Lisa Winton, and with me is Kenny Toy, also known as Swami Jayananda, founder of the Institute for Personal Development, located here in Hampton, New Hampshire. Good morning, Swami. Thank you for being here today. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing pretty good today. How about you?
Well, I'm doing great today, too. Thanks for asking. And we'd like to thank you all for tuning in. Today on the Voice of Yoga, we will talk about the idea of freedom and why Jesus said, "Know the truth and it will make you free." Listen as we explain the spiritual truth which brings liberation from the belief in two powers. In this show, we will discuss the process of shifting thought from a mental material basis to a spiritual basis. Life and matter must be given up for life and spirit. Welcome to the Voice of Yoga. We are talking consciousness. Join the Kriya Yoga Spiritual Advance to get the light in your soul and experience freedom from false beliefs. Swami, the title of today's show is Exploring the Aftermath of Independence. So what do you think we should know about that?
Yeah, freedom is one of those all-encompassing words which can mean anything to anyone. But in this model, freedom is liberation from mortality, material law, karmic law, the belief in two powers. This makes the 4th of July a mortal belief in a false sense of freedom, or the finite good concept of independence, but not the divine idea of liberation. As we know now, true freedom is only realized when life and matter is given up for life and spirit. The Christian idea of being born of spirit, or in Kriya Yoga it is called union with the divine. The idea of two becoming one, the intermarriage of the opposites, is the realization there is only one being, one life, everywhere, always.
So I looked up the definition of the word freedom, and this is from the Oxford Languages, and one of the descriptions says, the state of not being imprisoned or enslaved. Started making me to think about us being enslaved by this concept of two powers, this mortal mind. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, it's also confined to the limitation of form, being imprisoned in a physical body. And we're all struggling with this innate drive. We want to be whole. We want to be complete. But what we've learned now is completion can never take place in the mental material world of energy. Everything is in half. It's dualistic. To experience wholeness, we need to transform, go through the physical. And that's why we say life and matter must be given up for life and spirit. This isn't just something that you do with your mortal imagination. You literally have to rebirth the mind-body complex in a completely different source of sustenance. The invisible, intangible omnipresence in spirit. And that has an evidence procedure that you now internalize the invisible, intangible omnipresence as your symbol for validation. And the evidence is what the Bible calls my peace, the peace that passes understanding. You're no longer in search mode. You're no longer looking for something to make you whole anymore. And from here you can rest, and you rest in the knowledge of the divine creation. Perfect, whole, complete.
So you're talking about this process to attain this divine idea of liberation. So what would you say would be one of the first things that we need to do or be aware of to be able to start that process?
Well, you want to start to build a mental landscape that will support the divine idea, the divine principle. In Kriya Yoga, this would be called your path of knowledge. And then learning how to develop a practice where you're starting to practice your belief in this one perfect divine creative existence that is everywhere always, but it's not visible or tangible to our corporeal senses. So the next thing, of course, you're going to need is what was called in the Bible the mind of Christ. We have to learn how to think differently. When thought shifts from a mental material basis to a spiritual basis, where you're no longer looking for things visible and tangible or invisible but tangible, matter and mind, thoughts and forms, but you are now consciously aware of something more subtle, more reliable, more dependable, primarily because it's more accessible. We are always in the presence of the divine creative principle, but we may not always be conscious of it. And so this idea of developing spiritual sense, developing a value system that now puts what's invisible and intangible in the foreground of your thinking so that you are no longer searching for something that can't give you what it is that you're looking for, and you are in constant awareness for the invisible, intangible, divine principle.
I really like that saying life and matter is given up for life and spirit. It reminded me of the wealthy man that came to Jesus and asked him what he must do. And Jesus said he must give away all of his possessions, his wealth. And it made him very sad. We're talking about even more than giving up our material possessions. We're talking about transcending this idea of this physical form.
Well, what we're not talking about here is abstaining, giving up all of the things that you're using to produce a feeling in your mind-body complex that you're happy, you're special, you're good enough. We're really talking about a substitution, that you're giving up things visible and tangible, but at the same time, you're replacing it with a more reliable, more dependable source of sustenance. It's an upgrade. It's not denying yourself of pleasures in hopes for some better reward after you expire. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. What we're doing is we're giving up the belief in mortality, the belief there is an opposing power to the divine creation, and then prove it. The idea of healing in the Bible is really revealing. Jesus isn't fixing physical bodies. He is trying to reveal the divine principle. The divine truth is everywhere always for those that have eyes to see. For those that have a willingness to give up this belief in the false sense of self, they then become conscious of the truth. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. Life is perfect. What you're looking at isn't the divine creation. You start by educating your thought up to spiritual apprehension, but at the same time, we walk reason through this open door of revelation. It's a realization. It's not something we think about or imagine, but that we know with a completely different faculty.
So I just have a curiosity about the phrase life and matter. Now, we're not just talking about our human life, right? We're talking about the spiritual life too. I know you and I always are working with spirit is everywhere always. Can you kind of break that down a little bit more for us?
Yeah, see, knowing the truth that makes you free from the belief, There is no temporary sense of life, no matter and mind. There is only spirit. Spirit is the only reality. Why we say, just like light dispels darkness, truth dispels the error. Darkness is not an opposing power to light, it's the absence of light. Error is not an opposing power to truth, it's the absence of truth. Once you know the truth, then of course it makes you free from the belief in the finite, mortal, false sense of existence, which is what we would call now true liberation, independence. But until we know the truth, and then again, you can't know the truth with the mind we're using to get us through this lifetime, then we have to initiate a process. You begin with the physics of spirituality. Like attracts like. And you can't put an infinite mind in a finite form. So there are things that we have to do. And I like what Mary Baker Eddy said in Science and Health, page 15, line 31, 32. Without a fitness for holiness, we cannot receive holiness. Without preparing the mind-body complex to be a hospitable environment for the divine principle, you can invite divine truth into your consciousness. So we purify the mind-body complex of all of our unnecessary dependencies, all of our erroneous concepts, beliefs, and theories. And then in that silence, we watch, wait, listen, and we let divine truth reveal itself to us. We're also learning how to control how we think by understanding the relationship between your rate of breath and your rate of thought. All of these are strategies you employ in order to attain this birth of Christ in consciousness. The realization your thought is now being influenced by the divine idea and not duality.
And this is where the Kriya Yoga comes in, where we have the actual 8 stages of yoga, and this helps prepare us to become this union with the divine.
It's a complete holistic health management system. There's no sense reinventing the wheel. This is a tried and true system. It has everything in place, but you still have to work out your own salvation. Nobody can really do this for you.
So we have some verses here from the Bible, 2 Corinthians 3:17, and I'll read it. Now the Lord is that Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. End of the verse. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, again, we have to understand the terms here. This liberation we're talking about is liberation from the law of karma, liberation from the belief in 2 powers. You graduate from being under material law, karmic law. For every action, there is an equal and an opposite reaction, to being under the government of divine law, one perfect eternal life, without opposite, without imperfection. It's perfect, whole, and complete. And we don't try and make that happen. All we have to do is let go of the belief we are not under the government of this divine law.
We're going to pause right here to hear a word from our sponsor. Listeners, we'll be back with you in just a few moments. Kriya Yoga Theory 1, Human Development and the 8 Essential Stages of Kriya Yoga. This program is a comprehensive course that will help you get your arms around the science of Kriya Yoga. It provides a clear understanding of the goals and objectives behind yoga, along with the physics of spirituality. It includes the practices, supportive concepts of Kriya Yoga, and the process in human development, apotheosis, the process of the human becoming divine. A complete guide on how to become a human in the adult state. Get the light in your soul. and experience the simplicity and joy of union with the divine. This course is available in live classes at the ashram or online with 8 videos or 4 CDs. Visit our website, www.ipdtransform.com, for more information. Welcome back. For those of you just joining us, you are listening to The Voice of Yoga, and we are talking consciousness. So I have another verse here from the Bible I thought might be interesting to talk about, and it's from Galatians 5:1. I'll read it. Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ hath made us free, and be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage. So when I read this a few days ago, I was thinking that bondage would be this pull that we have to this mental material world. What do you think?
And also, you have to understand what they mean by wherewith Christ hath made us free. You have to realize that's not Jesus. Christ is an eternal principle. It's the saving aspect of truth. It's what makes the divine creation comprehensive to human consciousness. And to be conscious of the divine creation, of course, liberates you from the belief that you're a finite mortal being with a lifespan. But as we say, talk doesn't cook the rice. You can't just do this academically, intellectually. You have to rebirth the physical body in the invisible, intangible spirit and understand the evidence procedure that accompanies that. It's one of the reasons why Mary Baker Eddy insisted on inspiration and demonstration. It's very easy to think you are spiritual. Unless you move your lines of demarcation from good and bad to unreal and real, you will continue to accept finite good as the indicator that what you're doing is the will of the Father, when in reality you may be completely out of the Father's house, unconscious to the divine idea, and still entangled in one of these modes of mortal thought, still believing in two powers and under the government of karmic law, material law.
We do have a soundbite here from Herb Fitch. This is from his Realization of Oneness. The class is 26B. I think we should play for our listeners now.
Yeah, and if anybody is interested in the full audio file or the complete program, you can get this at mysticalprinciples.com, and I'll play it.
Now, this fidelity is how you develop your Christ consciousness. Every evil on the earth is attacking not you, it's attacking Christ in you. It's attacking your belief that you're not Christ. It's trying to make you believe Christ isn't where you stand. And so everything that comes at you that is not of God is the way the world mind or the Antichrist attacks the Christ in you. Arise and let us go hence. Let us come out of the lower consciousness called the world consciousness, the mortal, the carnal. Rise to the Christ awareness that nothing is present but the Spirit of God. Live with that, awake and asleep, until it's solidified, until it's dependable, until you know this is my consciousness. Nothing exists but God. If that phone rings, wherever it's coming from, God is there, and only God. This is God's universe. This is God's substance everywhere. Not what I'm seeing. That's world conscious. And you're identifying carnal mind. I think we have time to look at some quotations from Joel. Limitations are brought about not because your mind and body are evil or sick, but only because your mind and body have been conditioned by the belief of two powers. Now, if you're in God consciousness, God is the power, so there's no other power to change that which is God. And therefore what appears to be the power of having changed something is impossible because there's no other power. You're looking at the illusion of a power, the illusion of a condition caused by the illusion of power. There's no power to change spirit. If spirit is everywhere, if God is everywhere, error isn't there. If spirit is everywhere, and this is the hard part, spirit is everywhere, matter isn't there. How can you heal what isn't there? Do you see you're trying to heal what isn't there? And if you're tempted to heal what isn't there, you're not in the Christ mind. Spirit is there, there's nothing to heal, rest quietly in the consciousness that spirit is there. Until you have the feeling of it, this feeling intensifies. The more you practice, the more you have the assurance. Our carnal mind is the belief that there are two powers. Christ's mind is the knowledge that God alone is the power, and there is no other possible power. There's only the power of God, which is perfect. And so I don't need a power to overcome something that is no power. That which it seems to be a power unto is only because I'm in the false mind. All right? Out of the false mind, in the Christ mind. Stand ye still, there are no powers to overcome. There is my power being my power, right where the false power seems to be operating. Right where the sickness seems to be. My power is being. Rest in it until you have the assurance of it from within. Don't heal. That's the human mind. Don't be tempted to heal. The Christ mind reveals that only my spirit is present. There's no power to cause anything to be wrong. You're looking at the illusion of wrongness. You're looking at the illusion of lack, the illusion of limitation, the illusion of unemployment, the illusion of poverty. Get into Christ's mind, accepting the power of God is functioning. It is here. It is there. It is everywhere. Until Christ's mind reveals the truth. And then you'll find that which appears as healing is your Christ consciousness made visible. A belief in the carnal mind, which is belief in good and evil, good powers and bad powers, when actually there is no power to cause your problem. There is no power to cause your problem. It's all universal carnal mind presenting the illusion of problem. And you'll never know it in the human mind because it's the same mind. It's always the illusion of sickness, the illusion of lack. It's all recreated through world mind to appear as. And only Christ's mind is the answer. Christ's mind doesn't fight, doesn't protect, doesn't battle. Christ's mind rests in the knowledge that God is present, doing a perfect job of running His perfect universe now. To the degree that you can maintain that inner assurance in the face of what appears to be the problem, you're in the Christ mind. And you're breaking the carnal mind. The prince of the world is finding no place in you. Now this you may not like, but he says it. If at this moment you could be made whole, nothing would stop you from going out tomorrow and becoming sick or poor again, unless you yourself had come to the realization that the healing which had taken place was not one of lack or limitation, was not one of fear, sin, or false appetites, was not a healing of polio, cancer, blindness, or deafness. The healing was in being freed from the belief in two powers, good and evil. Now, deep in our subconscious, we believe in two powers. You believe your business can be bad tomorrow. You believe your health can be bad tomorrow. But your Christ mind doesn't believe that. That's the remnant of the human mind. You got to work with that belief. It's the denial of who you are, you see. If you believe you can be sick tomorrow, you don't believe you're the Christ, do you? You're talking about a mortal being. You're fooled into the world consciousness which says you are a mortal being. And so the you that's going to be sick tomorrow in your belief, or could be, is your denial of Christhood now. You've got to repair that belief.
This should help us understand the how to be free from the belief in two powers, the belief in a lifespan, the belief in mortality. This comes with the knowing of the truth being life is perfect, eternal, changeless, complete. God is running a perfect universe. We stop thinking with the information that's coming through the corporeal senses, which does not know the divine creation. And in that silence and stillness, we make the mind aware for the presence of divine mind, which is operating under the divine government of perfection. And we let it take over the scientific government of the body. Much easier said than done. And especially if we are not doing the preparatory work, we haven't purged the body of its dependency upon what's visible and tangible. Or sometimes we graduate from dependency upon what's visible and tangible, but we only go as far as what is invisible but tangible. We move from matter into the realm of thought. And what we know about thought is that it's dualistic. And it can't bring forth the divine image. So we have to be very careful what we're calling freedom, what we're calling liberty, human satisfaction, finite good is a bigger obstacle to liberation from the law of karma than is sickness, suffering, disease, lack, limitation, where now we have a willingness to get out.
So let's touch upon another one of the verses that we have for this program today. And this one, again, is from Galatians 5:13, and I'll read it. For brethren, ye have been called unto liberty. Only use not liberty for an occasion to the flesh, but by love serve one another. Your thoughts on this verse?
Yeah, developing spiritual reception by shifting thought from a mental material basis to a spiritual basis, by standing porter at the door of consciousness, no longer working with the mortal mind as the indicator of good and bad, but utilizing the Christ mind and distinguishing between the unreal and the real. Not fooled by finite good, we keep awareness on the divine idea without falling back into the influence of good and evil by remaining a faithful witness, revealing the precept, consciousness is experience. We cannot be conscious of divine truth and not be walking in the kingdom of heaven on earth. I have something here from Mary Baker Eddy, Miscellany, page 358, 12 and 13. I'll read it. All men shall be satisfied when they awake in his likeness, and they never should be until then. End of quote. There's an innate drive in every human being. We want to be whole, complete, and completion can never take place in the mental material world of duality. Life in matter must be given up for life in spirit. We must know what that's going to look like when we're actually doing it. No longer under the rulership of karmic law. We no longer believe in something other than the divine creation, the perfection of being. In divine truth, there's no trying, striving, struggling, seeking, planning, or even asking. You rest in the knowledge. Life is perfect, whole, complete. It is your conscious awareness of that divine principle then externalizes as what was called a healing, a miracle, because consciousness is experience. And thinking about something is not the same as being conscious of it. Graduate from thinking with our corporeal senses, activate our spiritual senses. You can only know the truth with the divine mind. So there's things that have to be in place in order for us to experience the kingdom of heaven on earth.
You just said things have to be in place. Can you talk about that for a moment?
We use the testimony of the corporeal senses as the check engine light on the dashboard of consciousness. Your life cannot be in shambles, and you are conscious of divine truth. If what you are externalizing is not revealing itself as divine quality, then you must know you cannot be conscious of the divine creation. And so we must repent. We must think differently. You use the testimony of your senses to let you know how you're thinking. We know there's a process. We have to graduate from belief to faith to understanding. We go from unconscious awareness to self-conscious awareness to superconscious awareness. But along the way, you want to be demonstrating. You want to test whatever it is that you are believing in to make sure that it is and has the ring of the true metal.
That completes our show for today. Listeners, be sure to visit the website www.ipdtransform.com. On any of the pages as you scroll down, you'll see several buttons there that you can press that will further your understanding. Swami, any final thoughts about today's program?
Well, I would like to encourage people to join the Kriya Yoga Spiritual Advance to get the light in your soul and experience freedom from false beliefs. Namaste.
Thank you for listening to the program Voice of Yoga. This is Lisa Winton along with Swami Jayananda signing off. Have a wonderful Kriya Yoga realization. Namaste.